Morning, everyone. It is extremely early in the morning on a Friday, but it's for a very good reason, which is this is our event to connect startups in UTS startups that are addressing a North American market to our wonderful North American advisory board at UTS. So it's wonderful being at a university with the alumni network that UTS has, because we get to have incredible alumni that are willing to reach back and help support younger versions of themselves, mostly younger, uh, to do what they maybe wish they had some help doing as well. So it's going to be a fun day. We're going to have three incredible startups presenting what they do, and then three incredible judges that are part of the North American Advisory Board for UTS, giving their feedback and their connections to help them along the way. I will say quickly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay respect to elders past, present, and emerging. I'll also say that we are in Tech Central. For anyone overseas that is watching this is the emerging precinct within Sydney that UTS is at the heart of. I've got Atlassian going in behind us, Canva is a little bit further behind them, Afterpay, etc., and a whole bunch of incubators and accelerators that are setting up in this area. It's really quite a nice emerging precinct, and it's nice to be able to say that will be Atlassian in a couple of years in a beautiful, shiny new building. So welcome. I am going to quickly introduce our special guests, or if I can, allow them to introduce themselves. So please join me in welcoming Cheryl.
Hi guys, my name's Cheryl Duffy-Geiger. I'm probably the oldest alumni you're going to meet, but I've been in North America now for nearly 25 years. My background is in finance. My business experience spans Mars, Kraft, Kellogg, consumer space, private equity, and private label manufacturing. So at the moment, I'm advising companies for sale, and I'm also doing independent director work. And I look forward greatly to listening to all of you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cheryl. It's an honor to have you here today. And Ryan, welcome, Ryan.
Thanks, everyone. So my name is Ryan Crew, and I'm a Vice President at Liberty Street Advisors based in New York City. I'm a UTS alumni. I graduated in 2015 with a bachelor's degree in business, majoring in finance and international studies. My journey to the US has been quite exciting, and it's been a journey, let's say that. The firm I work for now is a group called Liberty Street Advisors. We are a venture capital business focusing on technology-based investing. Our key pillars are aerospace, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, health tech, big data, and analytics. So to summarize, we focus on the most innovative sectors in the market. We run roughly $1 billion, and our key clients are family offices and small institutions throughout the US. Excited to be here and to be involved in this opportunity.
And that's $1 billion US as well. That's real dollars, not whatever we have over here. But thank you very much for joining us, Ryan.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And lucky last, Rob. Welcome, Rob.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm Rob Castaneda. I graduated in 2001 with a Bachelor of Science in Computing Science. And a few months before I graduated, I started a company back then called Customware, which is now called Service Rocket. And over the last 20 years, or 22 and a bit years, have been building that and learning lessons along the way. And we're a tech-enabled services company in 12 different countries and help a lot of cloud-based companies such as Atlassian and many others service their customers and build apps and integrations and help the world get a little bit more automated.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Rob. And like I was saying before, the very apt name for your company in being a rocket, because it's been incredible seeing the progress that it's made. If I can, I'll say thank you to Ryan and Cheryl, and I'll excuse you for a second. Thank you very much. And I'll throw to you, Rob, for a quick kind of keynote to help set the tone for today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So I guess in the context of thinking about Australian entrepreneurs and taking on the US and opening up into that market. It's a really big dream that a lot of us had, and I had that dream and was pulled across when I started my company out in Western Sydney in 2001. Australian businesses are, and Australians in general, we have a lot of grit. We are very feisty. We believe in what we do. We get down into the detail, and we make sure that our business is robust, because for us, just in the environment that we're in, culturally, failure is actually pretty expensive for us, right? So for us, there's fear of being in the paper, fear of letting people down. And a part of that is that we end up building really solid businesses, which is one of the features. But we're also really shy about sharing the success about what we're doing. And breaking into the US and thinking about the US market itself, I think it requires a couple of different frames of thinking. So the first one is not being shy to tell your story. And that means doing a little bit of promotion, not being shy to have an opinion and have a perspective on your market or what you're doing. The second one is to actually understand what your market is. So I think in Australia, when we were growing throughout Sydney and Melbourne and the rest of Australia, it's easy to think of Australia as, one market with a few little nuances. As you come across to the US, it is literally 50 different states, and you could almost think about many of them as different countries. And there's different cultural setups, there's different employment setups, there's different tax laws, there's different things you need to put on your invoices, state by state. There's different payroll taxes, there's different, income taxes on each side. So a big part is actually starting to understand nuance, because the market itself is ginormous, right? The biggest market in the world. And for many of us to be successful in Australia, we really need to, think about the market as a whole. And I think from the US point of view, what you want to do is actually think about your market as a whole versus the market as a whole. And what I mean by that is finding the nuance that you solve somebody's problem really well, and grabbing that customer and working around the success of that customer as you grow, rather than trying to be broad and say and tackle quote unquote the whole US market. So grab some success, build upon that success. Don't be afraid to talk about that success, and you'll find likewise customers that fit the same profile. I think it's easy to get caught up in following what other people are doing in the market. And we've had a big lesson about that, especially in tech in the last couple of years, right? So when I moved over in 2008, 2009, it was very lonely because we weren't looking for funding. We decided that we would have our customers fund our business. And all of our competitors were getting funding from VCs or private equity firms. And even to date, that's been happening. And so it can feel like, oh, we're doing something wrong because we're not following what everyone else is doing. But know your numbers, understand your business, and especially as the market is now favoring companies that are profitable, you can do quite well with small steps. And the last bit is, even though I moved over to the US in 2008, 2009, I actually started selling to the US market in about 2004, 2005. And I was doing that by getting up early in Sydney, pretending I was working in California. I had a virtual phone number, and I would call, email customers, and actually start to build business. And in the trailing 12 months before I moved to the US, we had actually closed $1 billion US worth of business. So we hit the ground running when we landed. And even during that time, I would fly over and service customers and fly out, right? So it is possible for you to build and expand into the US market without actually having to be there to start with. However, if you want to be successful, you have to be here in a way that isn't just hiring a remote employee. You have to be here and actually start to sense, touch, feel, taste, smell, everything that's going on. But that's the beauty of business. You'll make lots of mistakes, and I keep making lots as we go, and we'll be here to share the stories and support each other as UTS alum.
I can see people clapping their hands in the little screens that I have, but that was fantastic, Rob. Thank you very much. I think you're right. There's no substitute for being there in person. And I've never wanted to be over there more than right now. So thank you very much for setting the tone. And we will dive in. And also, speaking of profitable, I think you're going to like the first one. So stay tuned. Thank you, Rob. Okay. I'm now going to welcome Marie and Najib. Najib, I think will drop off in a second, but this is a wonderful company, Export Connect, that is, like I said, profitable and reminds me a lot of Service Rocket in how you're handling expansion. But over to you, Marie.
Hi everyone, I'm Marie. I'm the project manager at Export Connect, and we're an export advisory and consulting service that helps food and agribusinesses select, connect, and grow in export markets. So the key services we offer are pitching, pricing, market selection, things like that, competitor data sets to help food and agribusinesses analyze export markets and grow as well as they can. Okay. I'm Marie Jansen, and I'm the project manager responsible for the Export Connect portal. Increased wealth worldwide has driven growth in global food exports by a compound annual growth rate of 5.7% between 2018 and 2022. In Australia alone, there are over 10,000 registered exporters, and food exports reached $49 billion between 2021 and 22. The problem for many food and agribusinesses, though, is that they lack access to the detailed market insights, competitor data, and expertise they need to select suitable export markets and develop and refine their export strategies to achieve success in global markets. That's why we've developed the Export Connect portal, a one-stop shop where users can find the market insights, competitor data, and resources that they need to succeed. So what's included on the portal? Our market insights delve into economic and demographic data alongside consumer and channel trends. We provide category data in the form of category sizes and compound annual growth rates, both historic and forecast. We also delve into competitor pricing, packaging, and claims to help users develop their USPs for export markets. The trade data we provide is also critical to understanding which source markets are active in potential export markets. Our resources and tools section includes resources that are relevant to the explore, examine, and execute stages of export, and we've curated an export video library that includes capability building workshops, masterclasses, and insights from buyers and in-market representatives. So how has the Export Connect portal been built? To facilitate validation and growth, the Export Connect portal MVP has been built using a software development stack of world-recognized programming languages. Apart from being more affordable than our competitors, the main opportunity for us is that none of our competitors offer a fully integrated platform where market insights, competitor data, and capability building resources and tools are available in one place. And the advantage for food and agribusinesses with limited export resources is the ability to save time and money and access the expertise they need to act on opportunities utilizing relevant and current information on tap. Don't just take it from us, though. Users are already raving about how useful, relevant, and valuable the data on the portal is, and are recommending us to industry peers. So what about pricing? Annual memberships are $299, which covers access to the market insights, video library, and resources and tools. Then for $190 per subscription per market, users can also access competitor, trade, and category data. They can also pay $220 for an advisory session, which includes a one-on-one consultation with a leading industry expert in the food and agribusiness sector. We also leverage the support of multiply partners such as state government agencies and industry associations who promote the portal to their networks. So far, we've had over 280 members sign up, 185 subscriptions for competitor data, and we're also white labeling the portal for a peak horticulture industry body. We're already profitable as well, earning $65,300 in revenues from subscriptions and memberships, and have just signed a 3-year, $350,000 contract to develop and manage the horticulture portal. We estimate that globally there are around 400,000 food and agribusinesses catering to the mid to high income consumer segment. If just 25% of these are interested in export and 10% of these sign up for the portal, with an average spend of $679 covering a membership and 2 subscriptions, this brings us to an average annual revenue of around $7 million and a profit margin of 35%, bringing our annual profit to just under $2.5 million. So what are we looking for today? We're looking to be connected with multiplier partners in the US, such as state government agencies and industry associations in the food and agribusiness sector. We'd also like to be connected with software developers for ongoing portal development and maintenance, and are open to equity and or profit sharing to the right person. Thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free to fire.
Beautiful. Round of applause. I can see hands clapping. It's not quite the same, but it's still wonderful. Okay, welcome back, board members. What did you think? I might throw to Cheryl first. We'll do the same order as introductions.
Great numbers. Finance people always like a 35% margin. That's a great start. Were those they were $8 you were quoting?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And where do you see? Are you principally just targeting Australian customers, or are you going to look? You're looking to get into the US customer base and the European customer base?
I might jump in and help you out here, Marie. We are we everything that we do at Export Connect, it's all the growth has been organic. So we've not had any loans, any debts, anything. So we've started with Australia because that's the most natural part, and the majority of the subscriptions that we've received. And note, the portal has only been going since it's only been launched since September 2022. So it's not even been a year yet, has all been through the multipliers, the trade agencies and industry associations. So we've still got a lot to go in Australia to reach capacity. We've just been, and we will find out probably next week that we'll be white labeling a portal for another horticulture organization. So it's quite possible that we're going to become kind of like the experts in that. An online catalog that I created for a government sort of organization in my last role before founding Export Connect looks like it's going to go full circle and come back to us, because that organization has now stopped being funded and the department is thinking of giving it back to us. So we're developing a bit of an expertise in that. The idea in terms of the US market being next is that I know from the export markets that we operate in Asia and the Middle East, American companies are now, COVID has made them pull back and focus more on growing the US market because, the effort to grow Singapore is much bigger than to grow sales in Dallas. So, but now we know that they're starting to go back again. We know that a lot of incentives are being given by, the Southwest Trade Organization and all this. And so we see it as the sweet spot now, like with them having the budgets and the money to help the American businesses expand to Asia and the Middle East. We have this tool that's amazing, that doesn't cost much, that allows them to pitch in that. So we see it as a timing, as I think Ryan, Rob, and yourself, Cheryl, with all your FMCG experience, timing is everything. And we feel like while it's still a bit early for us to be looking at the US, I would have liked to have done Australia a bit more before start looking. The timing seems to be particularly sweet.
Are you specific in your targeting of associations in the US? What areas are you looking to target?
Yeah, so
it's very broad.
Yeah, correct. No, it's the associations that are active in export market development. So there are about at least half a dozen that are very active in it. So you've got the Organic Association, you've got the Northwest, you've got there's a South one. I've got them all sort of parked, ready to go in a queue. But I just the reaching out from Australia, warm leads always work a lot better than cold leads. So I guess that's where the ask came in, and Cheryl, in particular, because you're on this, when this opportunity came to us through Murray and his team, and he had the list of the alumni on there. I mean, immediately, and I connected with you on LinkedIn as well. I just thought, your background is spectacular for this.
Yeah. So how about I'll follow up with you separately, and I won't take up now, but I'd love to know which organisations you were targeting and see if I can.
Sure.
Thanks very much, Cheryl. Ryan.
Fantastic. Great pitch, guys. Nice to hear that it's already profitable and there's a substantial contract already on the books. I guess a few questions, mainly pricing. As any kind of venture firm, we always like to know about pricing. I mean, a few questions on that. How did you come up with your pricing model? And I know that you obviously came up with an annual figure. Why did you decide on the annual figure versus more of a monthly subscription model to start with?
So from a pricing perspective, we fundamentally looked at just essentially two factors. One, what's the actual cost of us to procure the information, organize it, and make it accessible to read, and then added the 35% margin on top of that. But then we correlated that with what do we think Australian companies, so we're focusing, the initial focus was Australia. What do we think Australian companies would be prepared to pay? And so we found that actually the combination of the two was the sweet spot. I suspect for the US, we could potentially charge more. And so we're ready to adapt and change things, because we know also in the global world, the internet world, they can very easily find out what's being charged in Australia. So we can sort of map and chart this out so that we still have consistency. We have a uniform price globally. But yeah, it was fundamentally priced on what we felt Australian companies would be prepared to pay, and it was through interviews, surveys. I should mention that when we created the portal, it took us a year and a half because none of us are techies. Unfortunately, we don't have Rob's computer science background. And that's the big part of us coming to UTS Startups, is tapping into the network of this community. Without it, and I'm not just saying this because Murray is on the call, without that, we'd still probably be trying to figure out our wireframe. So because of the network, we were able to work towards this. So we actually surveyed close to 60 Australian food and agribusinesses how much they'd be willing to pay for the type of information that we were planning to put on there. So that's how we got the side of what do we think people are prepared to pay, but then also making sure we can be profitable on it.
Okay.
In terms of annual versus monthly, that was just very simplistic. From our thinking very early on, we felt that it'd be easier to just collect the money once a year. No real science in that thinking there.
Yeah, look, and I think that jumps to my next question, which is about the way you describe the product. You're helping businesses enter a new market. Is the idea that you will continue to work with this business through their journey? And I'm keen to understand how that works, because the idea of paying $199 one-off, and then obviously some additional consulting work, that's great. But you obviously want to latch onto these clients, and as any one who wants to value your business, annual recurring revenue is a beautiful thing, because it's how we build validation in the idea. So
correct. We
what's the longer term plan?
And that's a great question, Ryan. And while we also recognize that the fees for the portal are affordable, one thing we know, and we've been running for 6 years now, so we've delivered 350 projects for 200 clients, helping them enter 20 markets. The FY23 figures for us are that 55% of the projects of our revenue has been repeat work. So it's clients coming back to us. 30% is from referrals. So our clients referring other clients to us. And the balance has been companies that have attended workshops and forums and one-to-many model activities that we've delivered more broadly. So we see the portal as being the other funnel If we see 15% have just come from organically from the things we deliver, we expect that at least 15% will come from those that subscribe to the portal. They'll be like, wow, this information's great. We now need more help. And then they bring us in. So for us, making the portal profitable is a must, because we want the income generated from the portal to go back into redeveloping it and making it bigger. But actually, the profit to the business is significantly more than that, because we expect to pick up 1 in 10 minimum, or 15 in 100, to then contract us to do their project work, which is the lowest fee is $5,000.
Fantastic. Great. I mean, that's some really good insights. I think that's really worth keeping at the front of your pitch as well, because I think that's some really interesting kind of meat to add. I don't know how we're going for time, if I need to move on, if we need to move on. My other question, which I ask everyone, and I'll be the first one to say on this call, what's your AI plan? A lot of businesses are coming up with a plan to how they're going to either use AI or combat AI. So I don't know if we have time to run through that, but I'm very keen to see how you're using that in the business.
Well, so that is also a great question, and that is something that we are sort of exploring. So at the beginning, we were looking at scraping technology and things like that to get the competitor data on. We just found that it was really inaccurate. We spent as much time cleaning it as it would take to create it. The competitor data sets. So we've got some people in Indonesia that are doing it for us. It's super cost effective. Ex-Australian students who studied at University of Adelaide, and so they're doing the work for us. Also, the market insights, we are preparing those ourselves. We are much faster at it than say if we were to give it to someone completely new to it, because we do it every day in our job. But these two areas we see as opportunities to turn to AI, to be more efficient, to reduce the cost, and make the portal even more profitable. We've just not yet found the right AI solution to bring this in. Also, we are still in the proving stage of the portal, so we've had some very quick wins. But we've got to see, is it something that globally people want? We want to test that first before we invest in any AI technology, because it's not, at least from our initial exploration, it's not all like super cheap.
Look, that's super helpful, and I'd love to chat to you guys afterwards as well. I could ask a bunch more questions, but I won't do that.
Okay.
And that's really helpful. So thank you for your insights, and I can probably share a few ideas as well.
Thanks, Ryan.
Welcome to a pitch session in 2023 where everyone needs an AI plan. It's definitely a thing now, but if you're watching this in the future, this was quite a moment. Rob.
Yeah, I think thanks for spending the time. So Najib, go to Namecheap or GoDaddy and register exportconnect.ai. It's about $80 right now, and probably double the value of your company. So you should do that. Anyone who's watching, don't do that. So I think so if I give some constructive feedback on the pitch, right? Pitches should be done by the founder, and Marie is a great presenter, understands everything that's there, but there's a founder energy that you want to be giving in a pitch, and unless the founder is someone who can't speak at all, so you want to make sure that you're putting that forward. And just some high level things. I think you want to focus on who is the customer at a detailed level, and share the story of that customer. Like, I don't need to hear that you've got a modern tech stack. If you don't bother even presenting, right? So, or don't say anything, right? If you're still looking for developers and what have you, that's a second thing, right? So I know we're kind of doing a combination of market pitch and pitching here. So just on the pricing model, I think thinking about cost plus is not going to win. And you need to think about the value that you create from the beginning, period. The reason for that is your cost plus right now, but your costs at 35%, I think you want to be pushing 50% north, especially in close to 80% from a product point of view. But you'll get a whole bunch of costs coming in, because if you're going to get your butt on a plane, right, on the Qantas jet to go to the Central Valley in California and meet with all the different people, your costs are going to start going up, right? So I think you want to think about that. Like the US is a big market. I think I did a quick search, is what, 5 billion US in almonds, right? So, right, just as an example of what's there. When I looked at your existing customer list, you have companies like Chobani and Master Foods that you list. And I'm like, those companies are in the US. And you have an offering that you could either decide, are you going to go person to person, or are you going to be more of a service for people, right? So if you're not consuming a lot of someone's time, but you're a portal, which means you kind of want to be high value, low time, right? Type thing. So you not necessarily want long sales cycles for those price points, right? So I'm just wondering, how do you thread the needle to get across, if Chobani's using you here, a referral only from, the head of export in Chobani in this market to the export in Chobani in that market? I mean, I would be getting down to specifics of the people and who they know, because the warm referral, you're at a stage where a warm referral is going to be worth more than anything, right? Because if you're going to come out to the Central Valley here or anywhere agricultural, put your cowboy boots on, drive around and try and get your $199, right? That's going to be a tough thing to do. But you're at a data level, and if I know you've got a lot of those services companies, I'd be trying to tap in. Remember, at every export market, there's someone importing, right? And for a lot of those companies, they might be importing the raw good, then they're turning around and making something and exporting it, right? So you've got this network effect that I think if you maybe explored that with a little bit more gusto, it might produce some things for you. So those are my high level. I think the other one is there's a lot of agricultural startups also in Australia, and I would be trying to network heavily with those. There's a few that come over and they stop by our office here in Palo Alto as they're going to the agriculture conference, agri-tech conference, and those things are kind of adjacent, but they're markets that people are in and talking to. And I would think, just my gut feels, I would think I wouldn't jump over to the US straight away, but I would definitely be trying to do similar to what I did, try and explore the US market from Australia, utilizing some of these connections. And then when you have a conference and 3 or 4 meetings to do, get over there and do them all in one hit and come back and then gather that intel and get to the next step as you do that. So, but really, really good to see. And you have to have relentless positivity. That's how the US market works. And that's how the AI boom is working, right? We're in a so-called market slump, and if there are hundreds of AI events happening in San Francisco at the moment, so everything is just relentless positivity about the future and what to do. Don't listen to what's on the websites. Great work.
Excellent. Thank you, Rob. Great feedback.
Okay.
Can I just say one other thing, Murray? Sorry.
Of course, sure.
Because I love listening to Rob and Ryan, and it prompts other questions and prompts other comments. 2 things. I think you need to figure out who you want your consumer to be. Because Rob hit on a point. You may be just for startups. You did have in there that you want to go up against a Nielsen and IRI. That's going up against folks with a lot of money. So figure out who you want to target and who that target is. And then to Rob's point about pricing and to Ryan's point about pricing, when you look at an IRI or a Nielsen, they quote a corporate cost, not a per user cost.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so think, do you want to do a per country cost? And that per country cost maybe covers 25 people in an organization, but that's how you can start building that revenue base very, very fast. I'm sorry, just Rob, you have some great comments. Just prompts more. So
yeah, that's we do get asked that. So we have had Chobani and these guys come and say, "Oh, okay, but can you give us a company price?" And then and then unlimited subscribers within the company, and so we've just not we're not that sophisticated yet. You know, we've taken that on board, and definitely that's a thing. And Rob, to your point, you know, for us to acquire clients or members, subscribers, business by business, the cost of acquisition is just going to be too much, which is why we're starting initially with going through the multipliers. We go to the trade agency and say, look, we know you're doing a market visit to Japan. You're taking 20 American companies to Japan. They're going to know very little about Japan. You can either pay thousands of dollars and give them a Euromonitor report, or you can pay a couple of $100 and they get the same value. And in the process, if you want us to actually consult to some of them and prepare them for Japan, we can do that as well. So then we get them to sell it for us. In fact, all the memberships and the majority, 90% of the memberships and subscriptions that we have been sold by someone else for us. We haven't actually sold them.
Yeah, no, it's a good model. I mean, just the other one, just to point out, you've gone from a per user to a corporate or you know, a multiple user license. Just remember that the way the world is going with AI, that humans won't use a lot of these systems, right? So it'll be other co-pilots or other assistants that will be using and tapping into these systems. So think about a consumption model that is about the data that's being consumed. Even if you're not at that at day one, you need to think about that and build in that kind of pricing thinking, because a lot of enterprise software companies, as an example, that people are copying, it's like, oh, it's per user. And now it's all number of users in the company. But as things move to a co-pilot or an AI assistant world, all of a sudden, if I'm buying software by support agent, but a bot is doing 90% of the support agent work, then I'm not, what do I do for pricing, right? So then I'm thinking about the ticket volume or the next level down. But think about that now, because you can start to position some of that earlier, and it's harder to change that later on. So
that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Okay, I am sorry to jump in, but you're making me too hungry talking about all these things that you export. You always do, and it's too early to be this hungry. So I'm going to move on, but a round of applause, please. That was a wonderful presentation, wonderful feedback.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now speaking of relentless positivity, please welcome Dave. How you doing, Dave?
Well, thanks, Murray. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Take it away.
Okay. Hi, everyone, and thank you for your time. My name is Dave. I'm a proud UTS alumni. I actually worked at UTS in one way or another for around 10 years, part of the team with Murray as well. And now I'm the head of partnerships at Compass IoT. And I think we can all safely say we spend a lot of time on the road, and we spend a lot of time in our cars. One of the problems that road operators, road owners have faced for many, many years is, how do we make our roads better? How do we understand what is happening on our roads? How do we understand the way people drive? And it costs a lot of money, it takes a lot of time to figure that stuff out. And, you know, if we really want to drill down to some of the core reasons why we exist as a company, it's that in Australia, the road toll is over 1,000 deaths a year, just on Australian roads. If we're talking about North America, which we are today, it's 42,000 people lose their lives every single year on US roads. And so what we do is, I'm sure many of you drive a pretty recent or new car. You know, my little Golf is actually connected to the internet. Your car is connected via SIM card to the OEM, the vehicle manufacturer, which means that your vehicle is sending data packets to the manufacturer, you know, perhaps once every 2, 5, or 10 seconds. What we do at Compass IoT is we receive the data from, I think, over 70 manufacturers at the moment in Australia. And we're able to aggregate that data to give us road intelligence across the entire network. And so what that looks like, I need to press the right button here. What that looks like is we're able to, we were talking about AI just before, we're able to predict or visualize when we can see that a vehicle has lost friction with the road surface. No one's ever been able to proactively, you know, visualize near misses on the road network. That is what's now possible with connected vehicle data. We're also able to see G-forces, you know, across the road network in a heat map, like what you're seeing on the screen now. We're able to see driving behavior, swerving, steering, braking, acceleration across the network and identify the points in the road where perhaps we have issues. We're also able to, again, algorithmically predict volume on any road in the network, as well as speeds. And down to pavement. So a little while ago in Australia, we had a huge flooding event in Lismore. Compass IoT data was used to understand where the roads were degrading faster and how to reroute aid and different supplies across the road network. We're also, there are many applications of connected vehicle data, but one of the ones that's super exciting at the moment is we're able to understand where vehicles are actually traveling from point to point. You know, without the use of camera and you know, licorice strips on the road, we're actually able to see which side streets they take, where heavy vehicles are perhaps going through residential areas and things like that, which is very helpful to road operators. And, you know, that's all just available on our platform that you can use, but our team also has a data science team is able to, you know, slice and dice the data set to understand lots of different things, including where people are changing lanes, where they're merging and where they're coming onto freeways, how they're moving through intersections and how intersections are performing, all sorts of stuff like that. This would usually be, I guess, a screen full of competitors, but for us, it's a screen full of partners. So my job specifically in our organization is that we work with these incredible people to deliver to our customers. So the people that use Compass IoT the most tend to be local, state and federal government. Here in Australia, we've successfully started in the UK, in Hong Kong and Southeast Asia, and we are moving over to North America hopefully this year. And so these are the types of people that we work with to deliver incredible projects in the road network for our different customers. If you sort of want to know what we've been up to for the past couple of years, we worked with Transurban to halve crashes on the M7, which is one of Sydney's busiest arterial roads. Again, talking about the Lismore floods, able to understand where roads were closed or degraded to the point where heavy vehicles couldn't travel on them anymore. We've also been working on, you know, many different projects with the different states, including where freight is going, where trucks are carrying what goods and how laden they are, what roads they're using. We're also able to, you know, many safety applications where connected vehicle data has meant that we're able to protect road workers on, you know, heavy pavement upgrades. We're able to see where intersections are causing accidents or people are, you know, near missing, and all sorts of stuff like that. So plenty of cool things that we've been up to. But the point of this presentation, the reason why I'm talking to you all today, is that as we launch in North America, we're looking for people who really want to leverage connected vehicle data to make roads and streets safer and better. And so I really appreciate you listening, and thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Dave. And I can see hands clapping all over the place while I awkwardly do this. Thanks very much. Cheryl. You're on mute, Cheryl.
Yeah, sorry. So fascinating. What's your financial profile look like?
It's a great question. We're entirely employee owned at this point, which has been fantastic. And so I think one of the cool things about working with, you know, bigger government clients is that we're able to really embed ourselves and partner in with those organizations, and that has been able to fund our expansion. I think we're an extremely light team. I'm just going to say that the free rent at UTS startups is incredibly useful, and many other favors we've been able to swing along the way. But the truth is, I think when you've got a product and you've got a solution that people, you know, that really does solve problems that weren't possible to solve before, that's how we've been able to build so far. As we expand, our plan is, and I wish I could talk more about it, but we've been working on a little partnership at the moment where we're going to launch in the US with a key partner, one of the people on the screen I was showing before, with access to their sales network in all states in the US and Canada as well.
So in Australia, primarily government? Is that local government, federal, state?
Every state in Australia, many local governments, and also enterprise clients. So there's a really cool few use cases in the insurance sector at the moment that are super interesting. Yeah, and freight as well. You know, there's a lot of, I actually live right next to a big deep water port that's becoming a container port. So many cool use cases like that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll pass it. I'm not sure whether I can help you in your sphere, but I find it very fascinating. I would love to see the financials, but that may be something you want to think about in a pitch in the future. Just a few.
Thank you.
Why no financials, Dave?
Yeah.
Couldn't
Thanks,
fit them on
Cheryl.
the slide, hey?
Well, yes.
Ryan.
Great. Thanks for the presentation, Dave. That's really exciting. My mind instantly goes to freight,
Yes.
and in specifically freight vehicle movement. So, massive industry in the US trying to deal with the heavily, don't want to use inappropriate words, a discombobulated road system we have here. An interesting statistic about freight in the US, the average trucking company is a husband and wife with 2 semi-trailers. So what you can do with data, you really empower these businesses. And I'm keen to hear more about this, I think I have too many questions, but for me specifically, I'm really keen to understand how could you arm a trucking company, a logistics company, a food company to understand either where their cargo is going, or if you're the trucking company to manage your vehicles. And there's a lot of applications for this, but there's a lot of companies really trying to crack supply chain management. There's a number of very large venture-backed businesses. A few of them have listed, a few of them remain private. And these businesses are trying to crack supply chain management, which was actually a minor I did at UTS, funnily enough. And
wonderful.
It's that's something I'm really keen to hear your thoughts on. How are you working on freight very specifically? And I mean, what could be a game plan to address that market?
Just really quickly, I'll try and answer at a top level. The reason why Compass IoT is stands as far aside from many competitors, particularly in the US, like Inrix and Streetlight, is that they're using multimodal data inputs like mobile, etc. We exclusively work on vehicles. That means we can get G-forces from the vehicles. It means we can understand whether trucks are laden or not by the way that they drive, and the different ways that the vehicles move. We're also able to understand, I guess, the road, the way vehicles behave with the road. And so the freight use cases in Australia, a good example would be we work with EY, particularly with TMR in Queensland, to understand grain freight movement. So using land use data, using freight data, understanding where are these vehicles picking up the grain, how much are they picking up, where are they dropping it off, how long does that take? Then we can look into freight efficiency gains and different things like that. And so the possibilities are literally crazily endless. And it's more just about how many people and how long will it take to keep up with all of these different things. But you're absolutely right. We're super keen to help in that space. And data from freight is a little bit almost easier to come by because so many heavy vehicles are connected because of how regulated the space is. So that means we receive data for a good number of freight vehicles.
Yeah, and look, just the only other question, I do have some other questions about pricing and whatnot, but we can get into that at a later stage. But can you understand, what's the integration like with businesses? So with your partners, how do you work with them? Like in the space?
So for a lot of use cases, we call it the road intelligence platform. It's essentially a web app. You're able to log in and visualize different queries, download data, etc. We're entirely built on Google Cloud products, so we use BigQuery. And if an organization wants to essentially connect their API and do their own queries direct, we enable that. A lot of the OEMs we work with as well, we're getting a data stream from them, so it's not difficult to do. And because we're entirely cloud-based, it makes things fairly efficient. I guess the biggest concern for us is to make sure that whatever's happening with our data is for a good reason and being used well. And just, I think that's the thing that we think about most. But yeah, we're extremely flexible in that sense. Yeah,
that's fantastic. I wrote down security/safety because that's obviously managing that data is an important thing.
I was kind of waiting for a question about that, particularly in California. But anyway, if we're not going to have it, then that's easier for me.
Yeah. Well, look, let's connect after this. That's an area which we're doing a lot of work in. We have a few contacts which potentially we can help, with via some introductions.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan.
Rob.
Right. Sorry, I'm Googling a whole bunch of stuff because I've got so many thoughts. So I will put my entrepreneurial hat on right now, and I guess my thing right now. There's a company called C3 IoT in the US. That's an enterprise IoT company, and they renamed to C3.ai, and their stock is like 4x since they renamed. The hype around AI here is real, and you can be skeptical about it, or you can put your sales up, right? So no companies are naming themselves IoT here anymore. So there's a good example of Australia being 18 months behind what's happening in the US, specifically in Silicon Valley, right? So I would think about the company name. I would be trying to get something like traffic.ai. What are you the artificial intelligence of? And I would think global, period. You've got .com.au on your slides. You don't want that, right? So you guys have to think about the brand globally, and adjust for the market, right? So I checked traffic.ai is taken, but they're open to discuss for offers of 25K or above, and I would say if you got it for 25K, it would be a steal. So because valuation wise, it's pretty nuts, because what you're offering is artificial intelligence around traffic, based on the data, and you want to dominate that space. So I don't know if the Compass thing is a little like when a new market comes out and we get a tectonic shift, you can get the actual verb or the noun, right? Like traffic.ai, right? Like we own traffic, right? We that's us. And it gives you a whole category of what to take on, versus having to be something a little bit more abstract because there's so many players and so many different markets and things. And you kind of see this, mail.com, and there's all kinds of stuff, right? You can go through so many of them. So I would put a global hat on real quick, especially if you're coming to the US market. You have really impressive partners. I think even through UTS has some joint research with Arizona, and there's a bunch of other North American universities that I would be maybe exploring as a way to then use that as a stepping stone to more relationships and things. And my other question is which founder is moving here? Because you said we'll open up in the US, hopefully. I would have someone in Hayes Valley in San Francisco real quick. And like Hayes Valley is known as Cerebral Valley right now. It's a small section of San Francisco that is pumping with AI. Like every night there are dozens of events. There are hackathons. There's stuff going on 7 days a week that even down on the peninsula, it's not the same, right? So there's these very small community that has started and is absolutely thriving. And you guys have a technology base that at least presents really well. You've got the academic things behind it. You've got some large implementations, and I'm not even getting into pricing and stuff. But I think the other part to think about is if you are looking for funding, the understanding what's happened in the market here is that a lot of companies are basically overfunded, right? They've raised funding before the crash, and for those companies to earn into their valuation, they need to quadruple or 5x or 10x just to get to the value that what was invested in, because the values have gone down. That doesn't mean VCs' lives are like there's still money in those funds. So if I'm a fund manager and I've deployed half of my capital in companies that I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to get that money back? I've also got half of my capital to invest in companies that I think are going to be big winners.
Right.
And a lot of that money is flowing into AI bets right now. So you combine the fact that you guys have real stuff, because there's a lot of fluff out there. You've got real stuff. I think you need a decision-making founder, right, to spend time in San Francisco. That's what I would be doing as a board member, saying why are we not over there? Like, kind of like saying, hey, we want to make movies. Why aren't we in Hollywood? Or there's we're sailing boats. Why aren't we in the regatta? Right? Where we've got something really cool, but the world isn't going to come to us. So I would totally be doing that. So I look forward to the next presentation with a new name, so a new domain.
We'll be over there in about a month. I don't know if we can turn that around as quickly as that, but I'll try.
I can hook you up with a bunch of people who are working in this, the AI VC space, and you can just follow them on X, right, or Twitter, right?
Yep.
And you just see what's kind of going on within that little sliver, and that for you guys could be quite amazing.
Sure thing. Thank you so much, Rob.
Okay, that was perfect. Thank you very much. Any last comments before I wrap? Okay, thank you very much to our board members / judges / everything. Thank you, Dave. Okay, we'll quickly do this and welcome Sean, our last presenter for today. How are you doing, Sean?
Yeah, good. Bit of a cold early morning.
Yeah, it's. I should have brought a jumper, but let's dive in. Take us away.
Great. So I'm with Platformity, and we're rebranding at the moment into Visual.io, which is our product-focused side of the business. And I've lost my control. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, so what is Visual? We're an AI and IoT platform focused on measuring assets out in the real world. So where Dave is focusing on the roads and how the cars interact with them, we're kind of looking at all the other assets that exist out that governments and organizations want to track. And we help them streamline real world safety, compliance, utilization tracking. So are my cycleways getting used? Are people incorrectly using a taxi rank? Are there safety issues with people crossing train tracks? That kind of real world monitoring that isn't quite possible at the moment, except as a reactionary step. So we've been doing this for a little while now, and on the back of all of the changes in the world happening on AI, we're coming out with a new product that's trying to give the end-to-end single pane of glass on how a government can understand, monitor, react, and manage their assets out in the real world. So that's a whole lot of word salad. So I want to give you a real specific example of the kind of experience, the kind of magic that we can create, and what the current state looks like. So imagine you've got a worker sitting within a government department. Somebody calls up and says, hey, I'm visually impaired, and the local bus stop to me doesn't have a tactile strip. It's missing. Now, the first question is, was there ever a tactile strip there? The current state of government records is they won't know if there was ever meant to be one unless they can find a record of one getting put in. A lot of these assets are managed in Excel spreadsheets or in some very, very legacy database. So once they've failed to find anything, they might look at Google Maps to try and have a look at the street view. They might search for some documents. But in the end, they're going to have to make a decision of whether they're going to send somebody out there to do a site visit. And they might get there and say, there's no room to install a tactile strip. And the whole effort is wasted. It's a bad experience for both the person who made the complaint, but also for the government agency. It costs a lot of money handling these things. And so they don't want to communicate to people about these. They don't incentivize any promotion, any engagement around this. So here's what we're creating. So imagine if instead of running around and doing a manual audit, which is what was proposed by this government agency, where they had somebody go out and scan each of these bus stops. What if you had a video AI sitting in the front of the bus or a bunch of buses that were driving around? You would no longer be talking about doing an audit every year. You'd be talking about a bus that drives past the same bus stop multiple times a day, is able to detect that there's a bus stop there, whether it has tactile strips, whether it has pavements, shelters, seating, bins. And now when somebody comes in and calls and says, hey, there's no tactile strip, you not only have a real-time view of whether that's true or not. You can access footage from a couple of hours ago and say, hey, that was there. But you can also proactively detect that, hey, that tactile strip has gone missing or the bin was damaged. You can look at a 3D model of the site and change that interaction from something where there's no real recourse to something that can take a couple minutes to verify, and also become a proactive management of the assets that are out in the real world. And once you've got this kit there, you can do a whole bunch of other really interesting things. Like, hey, that AI can count the number of people who are waiting at the bus stop and give you real data about where people are boarding and where people are not boarding and where they're waiting. You can link that in with maintenance documents and audit documents. Bringing the LLM side of things in, bringing the new AI side, understand the usage pattern versus how many times do people have to replace the bins, or how long did it take for a sidewalk to get damaged. And you can also proactively detect vandalism, damage, and other useful pieces of information. A couple other examples of where that kind of single view takes effect that we've been in conversations with. So we're working on a deployment where we're going to be tracking usage patterns over bridges. This is a problem in the US as well as here. You have bridges built 50 years ago. The vehicles that roll over these bridges have changed drastically. So you want to combine IoT data from a strain sensor on the bridge itself with video data detecting who's coming across the bridge, maybe looking at the license plates and whether they're meant to be whether registered and allowed to be crossing this bridge. And then also combine that with an AI that's understanding the road condition reports, the maintenance reports, or even potentially data from something like Compass IoT. We're also doing things like tracking pedestrian pathways, vehicle fleets using video AI to do vehicle inspections and marrying that up with driver reports. And we're looking at roadways and potholes as well. So there's a very broad kind of set of what we can do here. The key is that things have fundamentally changed in the market of how these solutions are brought and built. So video AI models that do this kind of stuff, 5 years ago, most of this stuff would have been PhD level research. These days, if you just want to count vehicles crossing something, you can get an off-the-shelf AI model from NVIDIA or AWS or Microsoft and be mostly there and do a bit of specialized training and get there. But it's also much easier to build the more complex models, and the more complex models can still capture a lot of IP. And also the hardware has fundamentally changed and is going to fundamentally change again at the end of this year. The GPU chipsets that you can now deploy in a little box out in the real world in order to run all of these things is getting more and more powerful, lower power draw, much cheaper to deploy, and is suddenly enabling a whole bunch of information capture on the edge that just wasn't economically possible before. But with those things moving quite quickly, the really hard part about this is, how do you manage all of these devices out in the field? How do you do the operations, the configurations? How do you unify your data models to create the outcome that the customer wants? And tying all of that into something that can run reliably in the field, that isn't something that is cobbled together and glued together from 5 different products. That is a hard problem that we're trying to solve, so that we can sit in the middle of all of these beautiful AI models that can now be created, all of the new large language models and other kinds of foundation models that get created to understand other sorts of data, and tying it all together to create an operational platform for our customers. And so that requires a mix of skills. Our founding team is network and IoT engineering, as well as large-scale data processing and engineering on that front, and startup product development. So it's really tying a diverse set of skills together to solve this hard problem. So I guess trying to boil that down a little bit, like, what is our platform? So our platform, we're doing video AI and IoT, device management, data flows, deployment. We're mixing that with using large language models to both understand and change the experience around how unstructured data, unstructured text data related to these assets comes in. And then we're integrating that with asset registers, rules engines, workflows, and our own dashboards and web apps, not just Grafana, not just data over time, which is what a lot of the competitors are doing, but real web apps that actually let the customer jump in, review issues, solve issues, and complete the end-to-end of their work. So touching back on like how are people doing this today, I've mentioned a couple of these already. At the moment, most of these are Excel spreadsheets tracking assets, and they know that the spreadsheets are incorrect, but they don't know what they've got. So they're going out and doing manual audits from time to time. You know, once a year they'll send someone around with a clipboard. There are abilities to do some of this stuff with computer vision systems based in the cloud. The cloud system, video AI stuff is incredibly powerful, but you need to transfer all of this data to the cloud. You have massive transfer costs. Most of our solutions are running over 4G. Most of our solutions we could get down to running over LoRaWAN with 6 kilobits throughput for most of the running time. So we're able to do this out in the real world with in a very privacy-focused manner, as opposed to wearing all of the costs of shipping this data to the cloud. And as I said, the way that most people would then solve that problem is a system integrated project. You have an IoT platform, device management platform, data platform, 2 or 3 other platforms. You're building custom web apps. The whole thing's duct taped together, costs an arm and a leg, runs 3 years overdue. We've got a single solution end to end. Then we're not unique in that. There are a couple companies, you know, just little companies that are building some stuff that's focused on the end to end. I've had a little bit of a look at the Telstra platform, Spatial Insights that they're building. They're really focused on data over time and object detection at the moment. So at the very base level of the case. But I know that KPMG and Deloitte are investing in trying to build this technology as well. So people are trying to get there, but I think we've got a good lead on what the real problems are here that need to be solved, and how to make this usable for the clients that I just haven't seen in anybody else's solution. So to sum all of that up, what does it mean? You know, we've got AI, we've got IoT, we've got document intelligence. The customer comes to us and we can fit business logic into that to solve their problems. Pricing depends. Eventually, I want to try and get this to some sort of a usage-based pricing model. It's roughly how it flows, but we have AI licensing costs if we haven't built it in-house. We have our own customer support costs and project costs, and the primary driver of our cost is data processing, the amount of data that we get through. There is, when you have a video AI deployed, there is a lot of data, a lot more than a typical IoT deployment. So that can look like a $30,000, $50,000 deal to monitor a bunch of key assets, all the way up to a network of devices doing really high gain detection across a large number of devices. That could be $250,000 or $1 million a year contract. So in terms of who we're going after at the moment, we're kind of parallel to Compass IoT here of really targeting transportation industry. There's a lot of really interesting opportunities that we keep getting dragged into. We think the market in Australia alone would be $20 to $50 million a year at least, which is a good kind of hit. But we're in great conversations with insurance companies about what we can do on the asset side of things. We're talking with airports and how we feed into their digital twins, utilities, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff after that. So at the moment, we're kind of just touching the surface of what we can do. How do we go to market? At the moment, we're working through partners. So our direct stuff is more around thought leadership, trying to get in the room and tell people what's possible. But we're leveraging our Cisco partnership and some of the other partnerships that we're working on at the moment to get to MSPs, system integrators, the people who want to sell the hardware, manage the hardware. We want to stay a software company and stay out of that. And then also talking to some of the distributors. Now, this is, I guess, at the moment, our best guess of how we want to go to market. And one of the things that we're very conscious of is we don't want to optimize our model for going to market in Australia. We want to get boots on the ground and learn how to do this in the US. So we build a scalable model for where we believe a larger market is. So we're still fleshing this part of the go-to-market strategy out. In terms of traction, we've got here's a few of the ones that we've got out live in the market at the moment. We're working with Transport for New South Wales to monitor their cycleways and pedestrian walkways, giving them data that they never had before about how people are moving around the city. We're monitoring taxi ranks. We're providing real-time feeds of how many taxis are at each taxi stop within within the locations that we're tracking, as well as doing compliance. Hey, that person double parked alongside the taxi rank, that's a safety incident. Here's the details. How often is that happening? As well as a few others that you can see here. And that's it from me.
Okay, thank you very much. It definitely does make me feel a little bit safer. The idea of all these cameras around the place actually being useful, but also doing on-camera analysis. It's a world I look forward to.
That's a key point. There's no video streams leaving this. There's nothing to hack. There's no privacy issues. We're extracting text data. This is not Big Brother. We want to do this properly.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Sean. Cheryl.
I knew you'd throw to me, Murray. You know, some of this tech stuff, look at Rob laughing. You know, I'm just a food and manufacturing girl, but hey, it's fascinating, Sean. Can I just understand, is it designing a specific system for each instance? And how is that scalable? That's the thing that I'm just struggling with.
Yeah, so and that's a good call out. So we want to build an enterprise platform in a world where funding is tightening. So we are a little bit solution focused, but every time we've done anything, we've invested a lot more to make that a part of the pattern. So I think one of the potential endpoints for this is that we would turn around and say the actual product is the platform by which you would build these experiences, and we're not going to sell it to the end user unless they've got their own team. We would more sell it to, back to the Deloitte or the KPMG and say, hey, here's something you can build a practice around where you've got to come in and build these solutions. But we're kind of following that enterprise level of, I want somewhere between 60 to 80% to be product and the remainder to be configuration, maybe a little bit of an extension for a particular integration. I think at that, when you're selling contracts at this level, everybody expects it to be integrated to their systems. There's always going to be an implementation project.
So the pricing in the future, you'd have a establishment cost pricing and then a price per user in the future. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, we do that at the moment. And there's, when we get to the web app side of things, people want extra bits and pieces. So we do have a relatively significant professional services revenue alongside our subscription revenue. But when talking about the business and how it grows and what it does, obviously the subscription revenue is the price.
Yeah. I mean, there's zillions of applications. So I think the partnerships that you form moving forward will be very critical.
Absolutely. And we continue to try to narrow focus of, here's a pattern, here's something we've built, this is something that can now be resold. When you want to engage like a series of partners like that, it's very hard to say, we can build anything. It's not the right way to go about it. It's, here is something we've built. We've built something to check a bus stop. Everybody with bus stops can now buy this.
Yeah, so the one thing that you haven't got in there, and it's just from my financial background, but doing audits of equipment in factory is mind-blowing, okay? And it tastes so much time and energy, but if you could utilize those cameras to do the audits of equipment and a whole lot of other stuff, it could be even stock takes and inventories. It would be a game changer for the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I was chatting to a factory that's shipping a whole bunch of stuff out, and it's all manual counts and pallets and seeing if the pallets went to the right place.
Yeah, not only that though, Sean, what equipment is in the plant?
Yep.
Because you have to do an annual declaration of what's there. It would just save, but inventory as well. I'll hand it over to Ryan or Rob. They'll have more technical questions than me, but hey, fascinating, and I can see huge application for it. But it's the focus of where you want to put your energy that worries me a little bit. Where to next?
Fantastic. I'll jump in. Thanks for the presentation. I really enjoyed that one. I really like the real-time data and analytics space. There's a lot of venture funding going to this part of the market. We invest in a number of businesses at the bigger end, focusing on exactly this space. And whenever we think about real-time data, there's essentially like two ways it can go. You're either working with companies, helping them mine data or their own processes, and then coming up with insights to help them improve. That's kind of option one. And then there's option two, which is you essentially are the aggregator of data from external sources, and then you syndicate that to businesses. And if you think about the latter, you can work for businesses, you can work for the public sector, like newsrooms and social media are buying into this a lot because they want to have, I guess, up-to-date information and edge. So it just depends how you want to take this. There's a number of really, really large organizations really trying to crack this. So my only advice would be find a niche, focus on one part, and really excel, because it's a really well-funded part of the market, and there's absolutely willingness for more funding to be allocated, but it is competitive. There's a number of businesses which have really excelled, and they have a lot of key institutional contracts. And you didn't mention it, and I'm not trying to kind of pivot away from your business at all, but one of the most interesting applications for real-time data is cybersecurity. So cybersecurity is a really interesting, I guess, vertical we're focusing on. And again, a key trend I'll say is that there's a lot of SME businesses which are downsizing their security staff internally, their cyber teams, and they're downsizing because of the world we're in. But what they're realizing is that due to the geopolitical environment we're in, they actually have to spend more on enterprise software. So there's a lot of businesses really jockeying for that position, because if you can position yourself in terms of solving problems which companies need to solve today, that's great. The government work's really exciting, and it'll continue to be a stable revenue stream. I think the more exciting application for this is working with businesses for real-time use, critical thinking. That's, I think, a really interesting focus area. Again, happy to chat afterwards with some of my ideas. But yeah, I just think that from my perspective, it's where do you want to sit? Do you want to work with the businesses and help them solve their problems based upon the information and they can't aggregate it? Or do you want to be the leading provider of information and then you syndicate out that knowledge? I'll leave it there. One thing I'll add, just a very kind of high level thing. I think it was a great presentation. I think you need to upgrade that presentation. I think that was probably created on Microsoft Word. There's two great AI tools you can use. One's Beautiful AI, another one is Slides AI. I found them from a pitch I was chatting to a founder earlier, or even Canva. Keep it Australian grown. Just make it a little bit more exciting, a little bit more funky, a few less square boxes. But all round, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Rob,
All right.
I can hear keyboards frantically looking for beautiful.ai and slides.ai.
I think you hear my keyboard going nuts. Great tech. I believe in the tech, so I'm going to focus on all the other stuff around it to make it a successful business. And because I didn't really see what the target was, and if you've actually this week we shut down the last customer of a learning platform that we had. That was a failed platform venture for us, and it took us 3 years to shut it down, right? And so building a platform business is expensive. It's big, and if it doesn't work and you want to take care of your customers, it's also expensive to wind down. So we have a lot of lessons in doing that. So everything I give you here is in the intent for that. So I felt that this was more of like a kind of backroom presentation versus a pitch. This is your opportunity to really show off the company. And you have a fantastic example with the buses and some visuals of the bus and the ripple strip and the blind person and the camera or whatever would make that a really compelling example. I have a short attention span. I was trying to read everything, and because I'm on camera, I got to like make sure I'm getting everything. But if I was an investor, I'd be like, hey, what? I don't get this. Is just boring, right? So, and it a little bit reminds me of I think a lot of us get to the point where we're trying to be everything to everyone and build every single pivot into our model. And I think you need to be deliberate and decisive. This is the problem we solve. This is our beachhead market. Of course, we're smart people and we can think about expansion into other markets. But you're going to solve one problem for one person, and that's who you're going to target. And the fact that you can do lots of other things, great. Because I think you need to really identify what that beachhead is. Because as soon as you start saying, and we can do this, and we can do this, and you just lose the interest of the person because they're like, well, I thought you were going to solve my problem really well. Right. So, and so then if you're trying to be a platform, your goal is to get developers, period. And building for that. And if you're trying to be solving problems for a business, I think you want to think about the business problem, the ROI of that business problem. And then once you're in as a land, then you expand to all the other things you could do. So it kind of reminds me, if you've watched the movie Gremlins, and you've got the dad comes in with the bathroom buddy, and it's a comb and it's a toothbrush and it's got toothpaste and it's a toenail clipper and it's a mirror. And it's like, okay, I just want to brush my teeth, man. Like, just like solve it for me. Right. The other part is and this goes for all of us that are Aussies. We kind of built, the media in Australia has conditioned us to be the Aussie battler. So we use words like we're trying and we could do this and we're thinking about that. And you need to be deliberate. Like, this is what we solve, right? And the fact that you've got, don't diss your competition. I would use the fact that, hey, Telstra, KPMG, the big guys have also looked at this market and they're in here as well, which shows you it's a big market, right? So you can spin it the other way. Everyone knows they're big and slow. You don't need to say that. If you need to say that, you're talking to the wrong person, right? Like, so I think being a little bit more targeted and deliberate. The challenge is you have 1,000 ways to go, and you need to have the conviction in your gut to pick one of them. I don't know the reasons, and I don't know if we have time. Like, you have a pretty simple name, Platformity, that I can spell. You've spent time and energy changing the name to something that I have 3 different variations in my head of how to spell, right? And for me, it's like, okay, there's reason behind that, but I would be being really specific about what problem you're solving, and then change the names, the branding, the examples, and all the messaging you get. You know, your background of Zoom needs to show that, just the whole, always branding it and solving that problem so that people say, hey, that's what you do, and I'm going to go to Sean for that. Once you're in, you can sell more things. So that's my 2 cents.
Cheers.
And I'm everything I'm telling you, I'm guilty of as well. My first company name was called Customware Asia Pacific, right? So try that.
This is the thing. Every good name is taken. It's going to get weirder from here. But thankfully, we've got all these AI domains that hopefully are slightly less competitive than all the .coms that have been sitting for 20 years with people camping on them. But I think any other feedback before we start to close up? Nope. Okay, that was fantastic. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
I'm now going to have a wonderful Brady Bunch moment as we invite everyone back onto the screen. This is beautiful. It's almost a full grid. Morgan, I might throw you on screen as well just to make it a full complement. There we go. My colleague and wonderful partner in crime, Morgan. I'm now going to run through everyone that presented today and just ask you each for a lesson that you've learnt from this. This to digest this down for the people watching and other startups as well. I'll throw to Najib or Marie.
Yeah, I mean, I think a key lesson for us is not to rest. not to rest on laurels. I keep getting reminders to have a call with the client. That's the next white label. Is to be, even when you deliver the first part, to be already thinking about the next stage. And for us, it's pricing. We thought about the pricing just to get it up and see, if we get traction. But I haven't really been thinking about pricing since. And so the key takeaway to me is, get your pricing strategies right. But more importantly, for anyone who's listening, is just because you deliver an aspect of your product, be thinking about what the next part is, and the other next part for us is AI. So, but I'll be happy to report, Rob, that we now have ExportConnect.ai and ExportConnectPortal.ai locked in for 2 years at least, anyway.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Dave.
Guys, I'm just like writing all of this advice. Obviously, we're rebranding to an AI company. That's going to be fun. But also, does that comment about being conditioned to become Aussie battler? We're not trying this. We're doing this, and we've achieved this. Has got to start reproducing in the way I talk, and I really appreciate that advice. Every single piece of advice, even to the others, I was just writing. It was so good. I appreciate it.
Beautiful. Agreed. Sean.
Yeah, I think it's a great comment from Dave, and pushing into the high conviction space of this is the market, this is where we're going to beachhead. This is what people are going to sell for us. I think is something that we're going to have to really work on, as well as making the slides a bit more visual.
Okay, well, I will do the following. I'm going to check out those slide things and go register some domains. But this has been wonderful feedback. Cheryl, Ryan, and Rob, thank you so much for your time today. Again, it's wonderful to have you as part of the UTS network and spending your time meaningfully helping the people that were presenting today. So thank you very much for that. Round of applause, please. And thank you to all our presenters today. I'll say really quickly, UTS Startups is the largest program to inspire and support tech-enabled entrepreneurs in Australia. If you go to startups.uts.edu.au or click on anything with UTS Startups in it, you can find more information. But for now, thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you at the next one. Bye for now.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.